guys, welcome to Bastian time. This is Zelda news. Let's get to that first story, which is basically a very interesting interview that Mr. Aonuma did, where he unveiled a lot of interesting tidbits. For instance, did you know that the video game Super Mario 3D Land has a level in it that, like the usual side-scrolly sort of level or the 3D style, it shifts to an overhead style, and you progress from room to room. You've got to light torches with your fireball power to get in, and so on. I'm sure you're already familiar with this. Well, it turns out that the fact that they did that was Miyamoto's idea. He wanted to pay homage to Zelda. He said, gee, that was a lot of fun. It really makes me want to play A Link to the Past again. We should do a remake of A Link to the Past. So he tasked Mr. Aonuma with the idea of making A Link to the Past. Well, Mr. Aonuma said, that would be fine, but really, if what you want is a game in A Link to the Past world, just let me do a sequel, basically. So really it was Super Mario 3D Land that sort of inspired A Link Between Worlds, and A Link Between Worlds was almost just a remake of A Link to the Past. So that's kind of interesting. In that interview, Mr. Aonuma was asked, now, why is it that it doesn't use the stylus controls? Because Phantom Hourglass, Spirit Tracks, both were handheld Zeldas, the two most recent handheld Zeldas, and they use stylus controls, and Mr. Aonuma says that the reason why is because he really wants people to enjoy the 3D aspect, and that having the 3D on and using stylus doesn't really go together very well, he understands, so he felt like it's got to be back to button presses for the sake of 3D. So I know that many of you, including myself, are happy that for whatever reason, we're back to button presses, so thank goodness for the 3D, I guess. And more from Mr. Aonuma. He was talking about how each Zelda game in recent years takes about 3 years from start to finish to make. That was a long time, so Nintendo, probably Mr. Miyamoto, he doesn't say Mr. Miyamoto, but he just says that Nintendo is constantly pressuring him to release those games faster, so he hopes that he'll be able to do so with the A Link Between Worlds, and that was part of the reasoning for why they chose to do a game set in a previous game's world, so that way they wouldn't have to come up with a brand new art style and so on. They could just sort of chug along forward and get that out as fast as possible. And then one final tidbit from him is that in talking about multiplayer, he says that that is a very high hurdle for a Zelda team, that they tried to do that with Four Swords and kind of didn't really feel like they quite accomplished it in those various iterations. So that's still a hurdle for them that they are still working on. So whatever multiplayer means to Zelda team, it sounds like they're over and done with the Four Swords style. So we'll have to see what they have in store for us in the future. But anyways, that's it for this episode. See you guys tomorrow for Nintendo News. Bye, guys.